This is the Lippin Putts Podcast, presented by Woodward Sports. We've got I think a fun week coming to you, the end of the PGA Tour season. We're going to talk about that, but of course, we're going to talk about the BMW Classic that just took place this past weekend. Patrick Cantlay gets another W. We've got the Tour Championship coming up this weekend. We've got the U.S. Am that just took place. Sam Bennett takes home the title. And then obviously the big news that I feel like has been taking up most of the golf world is the quote-unquote players meeting ran by Eldrick Woods.
The de facto commissioner, Tiger Woods, taking over.
Yeah, so we got all that coming up.
Yeah, so we'll get to that at the end of the episode. Obviously, we got to tease that a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, no, you talked about Patrick Cantlay won the BMW Championship.
Yeah.
That's what he called it, the Classic.
Oh, did I say BMW Classic? In my defense, my brain's very
you're
foggy.
A little fried from a fun weekend. I get it.
I'm fried literally mentally and physically. So.
You had a busy weekend.
Yeah, so
out late.
Yeah, I was out.
Any of the people following him on social media?
If they did, they probably saw one of my best Snapchat stories of all time. So,
well, good.
I was up to like 6 a.m. on Saturday/Sunday morning, I guess you could say, and then was at the beach on Sunday and just got absolutely fried. So there may be a lot of dumb brain mistakes coming in this episode because I can't think straight.
I'll try to keep us honest, but as you talk about, Patrick Cantlay wins the BMW Championship at Wilmington Country Club, which is a fun golf course, a few quirky holes, but it was a good golf course. First player to ever, which this is the most shocking thing I heard, first player to ever defend a title in the FedEx Cup playoffs. Tiger had never defended the title before.
Well, to some degree, it surprises me.
Different,
but
back then, where like,
but didn't there used to be like 6 events or?
Well, there was four. There was
5?
4, but basically, like Patrick Cantlay won this last year, and then he won it this year. So saying that when Tiger was winning these FedEx Cups, he didn't have to like win the playoffs. Like there was not as much significance on the playoff events.
Right.
Like there was the one year Vijay Singh, I think, won the FedEx Cup with still like 2 events to go.
Yeah.
So that probably changed a little bit of it. But yeah, no, it was just a fun fact. First guy to ever defend his title in a playoff event.
I mean, that's impressive. And
like, is Patrick Cantlay a dog in the playoffs now?
He just might be able to turn it on. Like Brooks Koepka was the dog in major championships. Maybe Patrick Cantlay lives for the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, but he's a puppy in the major.
Yeah.
He had his first 2 top 20s this year in majors. But, but yeah, Patrick Cantlay wins at 14 under. Birdie's the 17th hole to win by 1 over Scott Stallings. What a star. And it was a good event. If you look at the leaderboard, it was fun. There was a lot of good movement. But all in all, like, it's a course they don't go to. And that's one thing the BMW Championship does a good job of, like, rotating to different courses, which a lot of, other random tour stops don't. And it creates, I think, just some more fun, some intrigue and what you're seeing. And the course was pretty firm and fast this week. And so while 14 under seems relatively low, I mean, these guys, they were struggling based on how much you were able to watch. There was guys spinning balls, ripping them off the green just because you get on the wrong side of a slope and it's gone.
Yeah, and I think I may be wrong on this. After day 1, Keegan Bradley was at 7 under. So obviously they were able to toughen up the course a little bit moving throughout the weekend.
Keegan Bradley.
I expected it to kind of get to like some of the previous events that we've seen of like 20 under. So I think that was one of the bigger surprises of the weekend. The course actually finally kind of reared its ugly head a bit.
Yeah, Keegan Bradley shot 64 day 1, finishes 3 over for the tournament.
Tough.
Didn't break par the rest of the way. But I think it was the low round of the tournament I'm looking at right now. Other than Will Zalatoris' WD, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
That's not good. But I mean, Patrick Cantlay wins. He's had an interesting year from a standpoint. It's been a successful year. He's had a few runner-ups. And he obviously had the team win with Xander Schauffele. But like when Patrick Cantlay wins a PGA Tour event, what like do you feel any juice? Like how do you feel? Is he a bore?
So I know a lot of people think he's boring. He's not really.
We talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about it. He's not a showman. I like Patrick Cantlay because he just always seems to be around the top of the leaderboard. So obviously he's one of the bigger names on tour now, especially with
all the departures.
With all the departures, and I think he's very well. He might not be like an entertaining listen to some standpoint, but he talks with. He's a very smart talker, I guess you could say.
He's very articulate.
Yeah, and I think every sport needs a guy like that. And I think he's going to be a guy that a lot of people lean on to get like a solid point across, and he's not afraid to tell you his mind either. I mean, there was that quote last week that he was talking about going out to these different golf courses, and he goes, they don't they think they're making them tougher, but they're just making them less fun. You're just making them all these golf courses really long now, taking out all the trees, and you're just, let's just see how far you can hit it down there and go find it. He's like, it's kind of changing the game to some degree. And I was like, that to his point, that's fair. Like a lot of courses, we've seen it even here in Michigan, that they're just taking out trees and then trying to figure out how to make them longer.
Well, that just created a completely other discussion we could have, which is, do we want to roll the ball back? Do we want to stop it from going forward? Which could be, come off season, something we can obviously talk about with bifurcation and everything. But no, I agree. He's very articulate. When he has something to say, it's very meaningful. Yeah. Which I always feel like is like a really something to a really big compliment towards someone. If you say, hey, like, they don't talk that often, but when they do, you want to fucking listen.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I look at it with him. And again, I know people, like, he's still going to come off as boring to some people, right? He's not your Ricky wearing the orange pants out there on the weekend. He's not outspoken like a Patrick Reed, or is not as emotional as a Jordan Spieth. But for me, his demeanor reminds you so cool, calm, and collective in situations where if I was leading the BMW Championship, I would be freaking out. And it just, nothing seems to faze him at all. Especially between him and Bryson, what tournament was that where those two went to 6 or 7 hole playoff, and he just calmly kept making bomb after bomb on the putting green.
Oh, that was, it might have been this BMW last year.
Was it?
It was this, because he beat Bryson in a playoff last year.
Okay, then so I think it was that one. So, and to me, it just, and you could tell throughout that, like, if you even put Bryson and him side by side, you could tell Bryson was getting frustrated. He was getting upset. And it just, Patrick Cantlay, like, again, he doesn't show a lot of emotion. And there's something about that to me. It's like he's a very classic old school type of guy in that sense, even though I think he's younger than we are. So I enjoy it. I think it's just a different pace for the PGA Tour.
Well, and he's got a really cool story. I mean, I think he's either our age or 1 year older. Actually, I think. Okay. I don't know if he's the class of 2011 or not, but obviously he won the Freshman of the Year award, had a sick round as an amateur in the Travelers, and then basically like broke his spine. Was number 1 ranked amateur in the world, had all this future ahead of him, broke his spine, then his like buddy and caddy had passed away in like a car accident. And he was like, we didn't hear from this guy for like 3 to 4 years because he went around trying to figure out what was going on with his back. And after a while, he was able to get back. And I think there's a lot of work that comes into like stretching everything out, but he's much more stable now. But yeah, it was something that like it was going to be like what happened to this guy, because he was going to be the next thing, and now you're starting to see some of it. Yeah, but I think it's also just it's really hard to win, and
I think you have to be careful of like this guy could be next, because for a long time it went Jack, and then you had Greg Norman mixed in there, but then here comes Tiger Woods, and even Phil Mickelson at that time, like in the early 90s, is supposed to be the next big thing. And what is, when you say that nowadays, is what is the next big thing? Because a lot of people sit there and equate that to Tiger Woods. Yeah. It's like, he's going to be the next big thing since but no one will ever get that. And we've had that conversation. So
yeah, in like any sport, and like we're so quick to expect that someone's going to be like that. And it's like, that's not possible.
Yeah. So to me, like the next big thing is he wins
a major,
4 or 5 majors.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I would.
I mean, Brooks winning 4 majors in a 2-year span was, really good. Like that's someone who you'd highlight. So, either way, like kudos to him, big win. I mean, he's a defending champ for the Tour Championship. He's second in the FedEx Cup, which will go down the list of 30. But wanted to touch on a few other things from the BMW. Scotty Scheffler, tough weekend. I mean, he shoots 68, 70 on the weekend. He loses by 3 shots. He's first going into the FedEx Cup this week. Scott Stallings, I know I jumped over him at second place. He's been on a really good tear, actually. When I say good tear, like, he's not a Patrick Cantlay who's going to get top 15 every week. Right. He's not a Xander Schauffele who's going to get top 15. But, I think Scott Stallings has had, I want to say like 6 or 7 top 20, top 25 finishes since kind of the middle of the summer. And you see they start to accumulate. You get momentum. And he has a second place in the FedEx Cup, or in a playoff event. And now what does that do? Well, that gets him a spot in Eastlake, which means he gets a spot in every single major next year. He's able to play in the Players. There's just a lot of stats that comes from it. So, like, a guy who hasn't won since 2014, he's been on the tour for a long time. Pretty cool to see. And he's a guy who, he basically, like, I want to say it was 3-4 years ago, or it might have been during COVID, he said, fitness is going to be my new thing. Like, I'm going to get healthy be a freak from a fitness perspective, and it's going to equate to a better golf game. And that's what's happening. He hits the ball further, hits the ball straighter. He's just way more consistent than he's ever been.
Yeah, I will say Scott Stallings does the average like golfer some justice.
Yeah.
Like when people look at him just from a standpoint of like, okay, this guy's not like just a dorky golf nerd. Like this guy actually can be quote unquote an athlete. You see this guy, like we saw him at the Rocket Mortgage Classic and he's jacked. Like this guy is yoked.
Yeah, he's a Noble guy. He's sponsored by Noble.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, he's doing us a favor by being the guy that wants to be, you know, the ripped, shredded dude. People may argue his clothes might be a little bit too small for him, but he's had a sneaky good year all season. So your point is like, it seems like every week almost that you look at the leaderboard and he's kind of he's just floating around the top 20 area, especially if you're paying attention to a lot of these events. So I mean, to me, it's like, you always like hearing stories like that, that guys have to reshape their games to some degree. I mean, even look like a guy like Keegan Bradley this year, who was obviously he was a better known name than Scott Stallings was because he did win a major. But like he had to reshape his game a little bit. And I think that's really the true testament of, are you an elite golfer? Because we've seen guys come on tour, right? And be on the tour for 3-4 years and then kind of fizzle out. Look at like the guy that was an analyst for the US Am this weekend, Smiley Kaufman. He came on. Even Colt Knost won the US Amateur at one point. Didn't really have that good of a tour career. But so these guys, like, I feel like every golfer, regardless, I mean, Tiger's done it, Jordan Spieth's done it, like all these guys 5 or 6 years down the road kind of revamp their swings and start doing making huge, big changes. So I think if you can remain on the tour, and he's been, 8 years now?
Oh, he's been on the tour for, I think, longer than that, too. I mean, he's almost in the journeyman category. I don't know how many years exactly, and I'll try to figure that out while we're here.
Yeah, but I mean, to his credit, though, to be able to do that for even 10 years, like that's people. I don't think people get enough credit in that feat alone.
So he's 37 years old. He turned pro in 2007.
Okay.
And he's made 17 million in his career, and he's about to get a bag of money this week, even if he comes in dead last.
You know, you can look at a guy like that too, and obviously, like he's built up, but the average person's not gonna recognize Scott Stallings on a daily basis. You literally just, we talked about the Rocket Mortgage. All these players are just walking in and out of the crowd, and a lot of people don't recognize them.
And people are probably like, "Why is this guy so boring?" It's like, actually, like, if you ever listen to him on podcasts, he's a pretty funny guy. He's exciting. So he joined the tour in 2011. He won 2011, 2012, and then 2014. And so then hasn't won since. So he's got 3 career victories. But here's his season. I mean, he's played in 30 events. He's missed the cut 14 times. So like then you're like, okay. Now, granted, I'll tell you kind of his last 7. So he's made the cut 16 times on the year. 12 of them have been top 25. So when he makes the cut, he gets a lot out of it. But his last, basically from the Travelers, let's talk about, we'll go to the Schwab. T4 at the Schwab, then he missed the cut of the Memorial and U.S. Open. Then after that, T8 at the Travelers, T4 at the John Deere, T10 at the Rocket Mortgage, T13 at the Wyndham, missed the cut last week at the St. Jude, and then second place. So in his last 6 events, he's got 5 top 13s.
Well, and that's it's crazy.
That's called peaking at the right time.
Yeah, but like you only made 50%. Like what you said, you made
50% of the cuts base. I mean, he missed 14 of 30. So yeah, just
right. So you look at and he's still going to Eastlake.
Yeah,
that's what's crazy about the whole thing. So like a lot of people is like, well, that's not a sneaky good season. Actually, you're at the Tour Championship. Anyone that makes it to the Tour Championship, that's a great season.
Yeah, well, and here it is. I mean, he's had his best finish of the year come in a playoff event. And look, he did enough to get into the playoff event and then second place. That's going to help you a lot. And you're right. The way they measure the season is strictly based off of the FedEx Cup.
Right.
And for a guy like Scott Stallings, who he's not a Patrick Cantlay, he's not a Xander Schauffele, who's going to be in every major. That's not his concern. Is getting into the majors. He has to go to qualifying half the time. He's got a spot in all of them now. Like that is so. And we'll talk about Sahith, who was on the bubble basically the whole week and was able to rally in. Like him going into his second full year on the tour, getting into all the majors because he qualified. That's a big deal to a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a select few who are in there, and I didn't want to, like, brush over Scott Stallings by any means.
Yeah, no, and good for him, too. So that was fun to see, excuse me, Jesus. But, like, to your point, you said it was a good leaderboard. And that's the nice part is when you have all the top players from the year playing in events, like, this is what you get. And so it's that's why I think the playoffs get written off a little bit too much. Obviously, the hype around football's going around. But the FedEx Cup is one of the best times of the year when it comes to golf.
Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure. And so just a few other, John Rahm, T8, kind of sneaky T8, didn't even know he was playing well. Rory McIlroy, T8.
But John Rahm's done, like, that's what
he's the
crazy is, like, we consider this a down year for John Rahm just from the sole fact that he hasn't really won that much besides the Mexican Open.
Well, it's based on his personal expectations, right. I would say, too.
But back to our
and last
point,
year he only won once.
Yeah.
But he was like second, third.
Right. But like to our point about, the next big things, like John Rahm, next big thing is like John Rahm's a guy that we expect to win multiple majors throughout his career. Yeah. And I think that's probably why we keep thinking it's like, well, what's going on with him? It's just, he's not playing to that like elite level.
Exactly. Adam Scott kind of basically flamed out on the weekend. He shot 69-71, but he was in contention, was able to move up, and he got 29th in the FedEx Cup, so he's in. KH Lee made a big jump, 33-26, shooting 65 on the final day. He got into the FedEx Cup through that. Scott Stallings, those were the three guys who actually were out and moved in through it. Then the number 30 guy, Aaron Wise, he actually he doubled 15 and bogeyed 16 and then parred out. He finished 30. Shane Lowry, 31, bogeyed 17. So you look at like it was going to be that close for those guys. But one guy I do want to shout out is Trey Mullinax, who like never really had heard of this guy until basically when he won like the Barbasol this week.
Yeah.
He ends up finishing 32nd in the FedEx Cup. What a season is he climbed toward the end and really he's been playing good golf. Like I'm not sitting here saying this guy deserves to be on the President's Cup team or anything like that, but look, big deal for him. He was basically a shot or two outside of maybe making it to Eastlake, which, again, we talked about how big of a deal that is for some of those guys.
Well, and how about Ju-Young Kim, too? A guy that played
himself into
half the events, right?
Yeah.
And then he almost
had a tough week, but yeah.
Almost got into the Tour Championship with playing pretty much half a season.
Yeah.
So shout out to him, but obviously I think we got to really highlight our boy Sahith Theegala.
Mm-hmm. We can't brush over.
No, absolutely not. But coming down the stretch, it was kind of looking like he might finish outside of the Tour Championship window. And then he gets to the back nine on Sunday and just goes absolutely nuclear. We make 6 birdies in those last 8 holes, or
well, I mean,
5 birdies.
You could even start. So he basically comes in at 27.
Yeah,
you got to be in the top half if you probably want to qualify. Is what it comes down, and shoots 72 in the first day, and he's pretty far out of it.
Yeah, like I was like, oh damn.
If you weren't under par, you were like in 50th place. Shoots 68, 69 on the weekend, and then he's 1 over through his round on Sunday through 11 holes. Birdies 12, birdies 13. Birdie's 14, then makes a bomb on 17, like a 35-footer.
Solid fist pump out of the kid, too.
To finish in T15, shoots 7 under for the week, and is 28th in the FedEx Cup. And so, I don't know if he had, let's say, makes par on that hole, what it would have done.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, the guy is a gamer. And, again, I mean, huge deal. He also had, like, I'm looking at his shot tracker. He hit the ball so far right on 18, and he was able to still make a par. I mean, it was – and, again, these guys, it's a big deal. So, Sahith, like – obviously, we're going to root for him this week. He's even. He's starting 10 back, which we'll get to in a sec. But, like, that's the guy we're rooting for. He's our guy.
Well, and I'm not saying he's doubted himself, but he had the quote after the round. He said, if you would have told me I was going to make the Tour Championship as a rookie, I would have laughed in your face. And to me, it's just like I don't think he even realizes the potential that he has.
No, for sure. Now, the bummer is he's not going to win Rookie of the Year is the only shame because Cam Young most likely will.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, he's like, what a fucking year for the guy.
Yeah. And just, I don't think it's flying under the radar. To me, he's gaining more and more fans, like every single event that he plays in. And obviously that's like a big part of why we root for him too, because he is just down to earth and he just likes playing the game of golf. He does show some emotion out there. Like that fist pump on 17 was awesome to see. He's just such an easy guy to root for that. Obviously we're pulling for him, and now he's going to be in every single major next year. He doesn't think about that because I feel like you do get some rookies that come on tours like, oh, I finally made it, and they kind of ease off the pedal a little bit. And he's done the reverse of that. He just keeps stepping on the gas, and he's just seeing how far his game's going to take him. Yeah. And it just, again, I believe the sky is the limit for him.
Yeah, I think, he's definitely well on his way to being a star and someone who definitely want to root for. And so now we got the Tour Championship.
Yep.
Top 30 in the FedEx Cup make it to Eastlake. And this is now the 4th year where they've done this tiered scoring. which to explain, I'll basically let me tell everyone where everyone's at for going into the week. But basically, based on how you finish in years past, it was just, hey, the top 5. If you win, you get the Tour Championship, and then based on a few other things, depending on where people finish, you could end up winning the FedEx Cup. Where now, what they did, and it was basically after the year Tiger Woods had won the Tour Championship, but Justin Rose won the FedEx Cup. They made it, hey, if you win the Tour Championship, you win the FedEx Cup. Yeah. And so players are going to start at different relation to par than others. And so Scotty Scheffler will start at 10 under because he's first. Cantlay 8 under. Zalatoris 7 under. Schauffele 6 under. Sam Burns 5 under. Then at 4 under, you have Cam Smith, Rory McIlroy, Tony Finau, Sepp Straka, and Sung J M. 3 unders, Rahm, Stallings, Thomas, Cam Young, and Fitzpatrick. 2 under, Homa, Matsuyama, Spieth, Neiman, Hovland. 1 under, Morikawa, Horschel, Hoagie, Connors, Harmon. And then at even par, KH Lee, JT Poston, Sahith Theegala, Adam Scott, and Aaron Wise.
Yeah.
So obviously, you're starting 10 shots back going into the week. But there's only 5 guys who really start way ahead, and then it gets pretty condensed. Now, I did do some research, and this is now the 4th year of doing it. 2 of the 3 years, the guy who was leading, starting at 10 under, has won.
Yeah.
The other time was Rory when he started at 5 under that week. So, obviously a big advantage. And with a guy like Scotty Scheffler, who was going to go shoot a probably solid 2-3 under every round, it's going to be hard to catch him.
Right.
But I want to know your opinions and thoughts on the handicapped scoring for the Tour Championship. Do you like it? Do you hate it?
So personally, I like it. And I know people said, well, it's not the same as playing every other tournament, which is, I think that's fine. It's the playoffs.
Right,
it's meant to be different, right? The 1 seed in the NFL gets a bye. Mm-hmm. Not saying it's supposed to be a little bit easier for you, but at the same time it is. There should be a reward for playing great golf throughout the season. And that's kind of what it is. And I hate to bring NASCAR back into this too much, but I grew up a NASCAR fan, and their new playoff system's kind of very similar to some degree. You get to the final race of the season, and it's the final 4, and you have to win to essentially get the championship.
And those races, they have other people racing, just the only 4. Okay, I just want to make sure.
And it's very rare that you get back in the day, you used to have the winner of the race, and it was very similar to Tour Championship. The guy who won the Tour Championship that we saw with Tiger would kind of be out there celebrating while Justin Rose is celebrating too. So it's a little bit weird. Same thing in NASCAR. You'd have 2 cars doing burnouts and stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think the reason they did this was it was hey, what this is going to do is basically you had to keep track of 2 different things. And now it's no, we know where everyone's at. I love it. I'm with you. Look, for world ranking points and everything, they base it strictly on your actual aggregate score to par. They don't say, oh, Scotty Scheffler starts at 10 under, so if he finished 3rd place, they give the world ranking points based on how you finish, which I think that's good.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a bonus amount of cash and a guy who clearly has had the best season in Scotty Scheffler, you'd say, Cam Smith's another guy who's up there, but Scotty Scheffler's had the best season. He's had pretty good playoffs. He deserves to be first in the FedEx Cup.
Agreed.
And so there should be an advantage other than hey, all 30 now, whoever wins. I love this format. Is it a real golf tournament? No. Not everything has to be a real golf tournament. That's my whole problem. And I like how we both agree, surprisingly. I could try to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
But because I know people who hate it.
Yeah, well, they did this for a consumer too. It's the PGA Tour took into account is, even when you watched, I remember Tiger winning at Eastlake, and it was a big deal, right? Everybody was watching because it was going to be his first win in years, and after everything with his back. But they had to keep reading off where the standings, and it's almost next to impossible to follow along of where everybody's at. If doing it this way, it makes it easier on the consumer. It makes it easier on everybody else involved. So and people are like, well, a two shot lead over Cam Young, that's not, or Cam Smith, excuse me, that's not
it's Cam Smith's 4 under, but Cantlay
or Cantlay, excuse me, that's not a real advantage. 2 shots on the PGA Tour is actually a huge advantage. So
I would say in 2 ways. It's a big advantage. The guys who are at even compared to 10 under, that's 2.5 shots you got to make up a round. Cantlay, you got to make up a half shot a round.
Right.
And look, your whole goal is to just be in contention. I think the one concern with this, if we're watching on TV, is if Scotty Scheffler goes and shoots 67, odds are he's probably going to have a relatively large lead. But again, maybe we can talk about later in the year of different formats we can come up with, and I can come up with some stupid ass creative shit that people are going to complain about hockey nets in the fairway again and say they lost all value in this podcast. But I just think when you're trying to settle who had the best season and make it somewhat of a competitive tournament, but also reward the player who had the best year and has had a pretty good playoffs. This is a great format for it.
Yeah, I think so too.
And because it's not a pure golf tournament, look, we get 50 or something of them, 49 of them throughout the freaking year. Yeah. I'm fine with something being a little different.
Yeah, I agree too. And I wouldn't even, everyone's getting paid in the Tour Championship too. I'll have to look out what
I have the payouts.
What the purse is. So I mean, it's everyone's getting rewarded.
30th place gets $500,000.
Yeah, not bad.
The winner gets 18 mil. 10th place gets $1 million.
Yeah.
So, and then everything from 11th to 30th is like $950, and there's some tiers.
Right. So everyone's getting rewarded for being there.
Yeah. So I mean, look, here's the one thing we want to avoid is if Scotty Scheffler goes and tears it up, but hey, then he earned it. Doesn't make great for TV. No, but I agree with you. Like PGA Tour said, so many people watch this and like, what the fuck's going on? Well, now it's pretty easy to see.
Yeah.
So
it's very self-explanatory. Yeah. The announcers don't have to spend half the broadcast trying to explain where the points
we can
are
watch shots.
You know what? Here's something that it actually popped into my head 20 minutes ago while we were sitting here. How I think this would be another cool spin on the playoffs if they wanted to revamp it. I don't know if they will. I think it's fine as is. But another twist you could do is make it a true playoffs. Like after the East Lake, you get the top 16 players, and then you go do a match play.
Yeah, I like that. I think that'd be cool too. I just think it's so match play so variable for 18 holes. Again, Scotty Scheffler could have a great year. He could go shoot 67 in a match and play KH Lee, who shoots 65 that day.
Yeah.
And now he's eliminated. So that's the hard part to it.
Right.
I don't know if you want to do a best of series or there's a bunch of different ways.
Game 7. Yeah, that would be.
Maybe we brainstorm. I could come up with some stupid ideas.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any ideas out of the realm right now because of the situation going on with Liv. Yeah. So, I mean, if they need a council of ideas, sign me up. I want in on that.
I'm
board.
with you. Tiger should be calling us up.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiger. We want to be on that committee.
Yeah, we need to be in the meetings. One other person worth mentioning. So Will Zalatoris, he's at 7 under, does withdraw on the third day through 4 holes with a back injury. And he was wincing in pretty good pain.
Yeah.
It's concerning, I would say. There's been no really report what the injury is, but he looked like he was in pretty good pain. He had to withdraw from the Open Championship, I think a year and a half, not this year, last year.
Yep.
Because he hurt his back swinging through the hay, basically. So if he's out, bummer, because that's a guy who's at 7 under. Now you have a field of 29. He would get just 30th place, and he would get his $500,000. Where I'm curious is he going to battle through it, and then if it's something that needs surgery, can he make it worse? And if he can't, I'm still trying to gut it out.
Right, yeah.
If you can do it, if you can physically
couple
withstand the pain.
Shot.
Yeah, exactly. Got it out for 4 days. The only thing that maybe in his mind, he's like, well, there's the President's Cup. It's look, personally, who gives a it's cool and all, but you got 3 months of basically off season, so maybe try to get through this and then take a chill. But we'll find out. There's no word on it.
Yeah, it's going to come down to what the doctors say.
I do think if he plays, I don't have high expectations for him.
Yeah, and we are recording this on a Monday, and it'll be released Wednesday. So
exactly.
If news does come out, he could totally get rid of that.
Yeah, he could literally withdraw up until the moment of the tournament. I mean, if he's going to try, we'll see.
Yeah, I assume right now he's still scheduled to play. Yeah. He's definitely not going to withdraw this early. So,
my question for you though is, how far back is too far back? So you got 10 unders leading. Do you even give the guys at 3, 2, 1 even par even a chance?
Well, Rory was 5 under the one year he won it,
yeah,
and it was just he played.
He shot 13 under in 4 rounds, and East Lake it's hard to go low. It's if you have a 5 under round at East Lake, that's a really good round. I also think it's pretty hard to shoot a really high score.
Well, 2 years ago, I think there was that video of him on 18 shanking one because the guy had the bet placed of he's gonna shank it, and then he did.
Yeah. So, but I think it's hard to make up 10 shots there. You need Scotty Scheffler to play really bad to bring those guys in, and I don't expect it. So I think guys at 4 under could have a chance. I just for a guy let's say Sahith at even or even the guys at 2 under, you got to go shoot in the first round 6 under, and that's a golf course that does not give you much opportunity to do that.
Right.
And even at that point, let's say Saez shoots 6 under, he gets to 6 under. Scotty Scheffler could shoot 3 under. He's still 7 back at that point.
Yeah, that's why. Well, I want to see those guys at like even par 1 or 2. Like, just go balls to the wall. Like, because obviously, like Scheffler and those guys up top, they're going to play a little bit more conservative. Like, if you got to hit a iron off the tee or whatever it may be to preserve that lead a little bit. So, I think that's what makes it unique too. Is like those guys can just come out gunning. Because at the end of the day, I get you don't want to finish dead last and 30th, but at the same time too, it's not too much of a difference because you want to try to get up, I assume, into the million category.
Exactly, top 10. So
yeah,
and I would say if you were asking me like, hey, like what group do I see has the most firepower to do it? I do like the 4 unders with Cam Smith, Rory McIlroy, Tony Finau. They have Sepp Straka and Sung J.M. We'll see,
but those guys have the capability.
Finau,
of
McIlroy,
low.
and Smith can really go low. The course doesn't really fit Smith that well. And we don't even know what's going on with his hip. I'm doing with finger quotes.
Yeah.
And then the other guy who obviously like I think can light up a golf course is Cam Young.
Yeah.
Which would be funny if like Cam Young's going to finish in like 2nd place and he would have won this tournament outright. This is what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, making the call. Cam Young will have the lowest score to par this week, but he will not win. Just because that's what would make sense.
For his season, yes.
Yeah, that's what it would not be a PGA Tour win, but he'll have the lowest score to par this week.
It'll be the icing on the cake for him.
Yeah. So either way, I mean, I guess one guy who like, I think Scotty Scheffler wins. Hot take, taking the guy in the lead.
Even though he hasn't been playing good that last.
Dude, he can't finish 3rd place. He's not playing well. He finished 3rd place last week.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
yeah,
fuck. But that's he's steady. Like, when you give him a lead, I think
he had one bad.
hard.
Like he has one bad round. The next thing you look back up and he is right up. Yeah.
But I would say Scotty Scheffler, and then if I were to take a guy like low in the pack who could really shoot up.
Like who's your dark horse?
I mean, I'm
going
to go Cam Young. I think Cam Young is my dark horse. He's 3 under. I think he could finish in the top 3 would be a good bet.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm going Patrick Cantlay. Well, back to back FedEx Cup champion.
There you go. It's a good one.
Guy that's been here before.
Yeah.
Obviously
he's only 2 back.
Yeah, playing good golf coming in. Obviously, we're taking 2 of the favorites.
Yeah.
We said we were just going to do that.
Who's your dark horse low guy other than Saez? I mean, we're both on
Tony Finau. I mean, and it's hard to say, it's weird seeing him being a dark horse, even though he's
starting 6 back.
But he is starting 6 back. Yeah. So I mean, we don't have a lot of guys to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, you got 10 under, 8 under, 7 under, 6 under. So then the 5th next is Sam Burns, which no one's talking about Sam Burns. Just saying.
You're the only one that talks about Sam Burns.
And he's had like the 4th best season or something. I mean, it's like
already on the President's Cup team.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. So we'll see. We thought about, I think, talking about the President's Cup this week. The qualifiers came out. There's just so much stuff with Liv, and I think pending basically when this tournament ends, we're gonna hear about more people, which we'll talk about later. We don't even need to talk about President's Cup yet. We'll talk about that.
Off season's coming up. We're not going to have all these events and big fields to talk about. So we'll keep that.
I'm glad we're on the same page with the Tour Championship. I definitely.
I know there are people out there that don't like it. But, and it's
the golf purists.
Yeah, it's all what we talked about. It's like, it's not really. Like, again, it's playoffs.
Yeah,
like it's. Just enjoy it.
If everything is the same thing, it gets monotonous and boring. And I like their effort in trying to change something up.
Yeah.
Is it like if Scotty Scheffler goes and wins again, and so you have 3 of the 4 winners being the guy who's in the lead, maybe you need to look at. But it's also like, hey, it's the guy who's had the best season, who's playing very well. Like he's probably going to have a good week either way.
Yeah. Well, and if he does win, if Scotty Scheffler does win, easily takes the cake for biggest career earning year on the PGA Tour.
Oh yeah, big time.
18 million. Could you imagine?
It'd be nice. 2nd place gets 6. That's a big difference.
Well, and I think that so like that's what's crazy is you think about the year Scotty Scheffler has, and it's going to come down to one event. He can essentially double his earnings through one event.
Or he could sign a contract with Liv.
He could. But then that $36 million he would have won this year, you don't get paid back until he goes against your winnings. So
which we still don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to figure that out.
Well, yeah, that's for us.
We're investigators of the Live Golf Series.
Yeah, exactly. We'll know that. But hey, I think it's time to talk about the USAM.
Yep.
Sam Bennett wins over Brandon Carr at Ridgewood Country Club. The Mid-Am Stuart Hagestad lost in the quarterfinals. I just think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, lost to Bennett.
Yeah,
in those quarterfinals. So
one like Hagestad's a gamer. I always root for anyone against him, though. I don't know why. And you'd think I'd root for the mid-am guy.
Well, so I thought about rooting for them, but then I was watching that match between Bennett and Hagestad, and dear God, does he take forever.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like, if you're golf and you play fast like I do and like you do, it's hard for me to root for slow players. Like, you can be a bad golfer, and I'll play with you. Like, no, but if you are a slow player...
Well, so explain to everyone who maybe didn't watch what you're talking about here.
So with Hagestad,
Well,
they got put on the clock by the USGA in the event, and
he's just so meticulous.
And obviously, like, there's not a lot of golf going on.
Yeah,
and it was quarterfinals.
And once you get to the mat, I mean, I get, but
they still want to, like, the USGA still wants to, like, uphold the integrity of playing in time. So I believe it was the 14th or 15th hole they got put on the clock, and then Hagestad, he reads, and I mean, granted, he's a really good player. That's not going to take away anything I'm about to say, but he reads the greens like you're reading a Harry Potter book. Like, it doesn't take a short amount of time to read those books.
No, I'm with you. Well, and that's why certain of them have outlawed those books and everything.
Yeah. But I think the quote of the entire tournament came after Bennett beat Hagestad. He came out and Bennett had to go through a gauntlet of players of some of the highest ranked amateurs in the entire world. And he was kind of asked about that. He goes, they're all good players, but I'm a great player. And shout out to him for backing that up, because he did. I was like, that's kind of putting your balls on the table and then just completely owning it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I don't know if he's a top ranked amateur, but I believe he's top 3.
Bennett,
if I'm not mistaken on that.
I've been hearing about his name for a little bit now.
So, I mean, kudos to him for being that highly ranked and then going out and winning the event too. Because we go back to when Pyatt won last year. That's not like a name on the table a lot of people think of. And I think that's how the U.S. Amateur kind of works out sometimes too, is like you'll get all the big name guys like to the quarterfinals and semifinals, but usually there's always a name in there that you don't expect. This seemed to me like the first amateur in a while that it wasn't like any big surprise stories.
I mean, the Bryson was probably, Hovland won, which was a few years back, and then Bryson. But yeah, there's been we talked about, I'm blanking on his freaking name. God damn, who was the guy who went to live for the first event?
I'm not getting that name's not going to.
Yeah, like I don't know how we're completely forgetting about it right now.
I got like drinking brain.
Well, Tyler Stravocki won it last year, which now he's still in college. So, but either way, I mean, what do you think of the golf course? I think the USGA and the USAM, they go to great courses because you don't have to worry about as many fans and everything. They went to Bandon 3 years ago.
I love it
Obviously
because
last year Oakmont, but
you in that event, it gets so much TV coverage. And shout out Smiley Kaufman and Colt Nose. They did a great job covering it. Smiley, I think, is definitely going to have a career a long time as being a quote unquote golf analyst or on course reporter. Mm-hmm. But for me, you like Oakmont, when you've seen tournaments at Oakmont on TV, it's been with huge stands and 4 majors. But when they had the U.S. Amateur there, you get to see it without the stands and truly how those golf courses are set up and played, and that's why I enjoy seeing the U.S. Am from that standpoint. So it's unique. It's just different. It feels like. I don't even know how to correctly put it in terms. Like it doesn't feel, it's not like a country club-esque type feel, but for me, that's how it is because I've worked at clubs.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you get to see the golf course for how it was truly built without all the, not eyesores. I like the stands out there, but you get to see the course for how it truly sets up.
For sure. Totally. So either way, I mean, Sam Bennett now, we'll see what happens with him if he gets a big contract, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he obviously gets the exemption into the Masters, exemption to the U.S. Open, and if he stays an amateur, exemption into the Open as well.
Right. SEC Player of the Year, too. So, again, the kid is – it's no fluke that this guy won the U.S.
He beat a guy
Open.
from Georgia Southern, Ben Carr.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a ton of this guy.
Yeah, well, you don't hear a lot of these guys coming in, right? It's kind of part of the cool thing about it. But I think they had like eight of the eight final guys were all Americans. So
okay,
because Bennett beat I forgot his name, a Spaniard in the I believe Sweet 16 if I have that correct. So
here's who Bennett had beaten up through this Hagestad in the World Amateur Golf Ranking. He had beaten a guy ranked 13th in the world, 27th, 10th, and 9th in the World Amateur Golf Ranking. Yeah. That's going through some beasts.
Yeah, obviously I don't think they rated it, but I think he would have had the hardest, you know how they rank like
hardest path probably.
Yeah, hardest path to the
I'm sure.
to the trophy. So,
but hey, secured it, 1-up victory over Ben Carr. So
here's a little fun fact too: is this is the first U.S. amateur in 4 years now that has had no relation to a friend of ours, Ben Smith.
That's a very good point. Wow,
isn't that crazy to think about?
That we know of.
That we know of. Yeah, I mean,
they could be boys that we don't even know about.
Yeah, but
we should find out.
Yeah, we should, because the last 4 winners have all been
Andy Ogletree. That was his name. God damn.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's who you were thinking of. I knew Ogletree.
I was like, what was his name? So yeah. Ben played with Andy Ogletree at Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Played with James Pyatt in high school.
Yep.
And they're good buddies. And then played with Tyler Strafaki at Georgia Tech.
So last 3 years, excuse me, not 4.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I was like, what was his name? I couldn't figure it out. But
I thought you were talking about the
last year's winner.
No, the other AM that just went over there and.
The one guy from like Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
One of the two. So either way, Korn Ferry Finals also got started. 3-event series. Usually you get top 5 in one of these events, depending on, if it's a tight T5 with like 8 guys, different story. But I'm saying if you finish in the top 5 players, you usually secure a spot with your card. Obviously the top 25 in this mini season series gets in. So if you want to just do simple math, the top 8 each week should basically clinch you a spot. But again, there's always tiebreakers. Will Gordon wins in a playoff over MJ Duffy and Philip Knowles. Philip Knowles does secure a PGA Tour card, but this guy was outside the 75 with like 2 events to go. And he had a bad weekend. He shot 68-70, so he went 4 under on the weekend with 17 under the first 2 days. But awesome for him. Will Gordon had been on the tour before last year, so he earned his card. Shot 63 on the final day, then wins with a par in the playoff. And then Duffy, MJ Duffy, I think it Monday qualified 4 or 5 times. I've known that name from those.
Well, and then he through the second round.
He was
of
somewhere,
the
the
U.S. Open.
He was in the lead and then just combusted.
Well,
he got to 5 under.
Yeah.
But then just a few.
Well, he's the guy that has his tour card going into next season already too.
No, Duffy had earned his card. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But then another guy, Dean Burmester, South African who hits the ball a mile, got in. Thomas Dietrich, a European, finished T4.
You picked him as a pick,
Thomas
I believe.
Dietrich, I picked him in a
DraftKings.
Yeah, he's a Euro.
But no, that was a name, I believe, on this podcast. You said like a name just to kind of watch. We were running through the U.S. Open preview
names.
or British Open preview or something. Yeah,
I probably missed the cut that week.
Yeah.
But then Nick Hardy, who we talked, he just missed out on his card. I think he was like 127th. He finished T15, so good start to his week. Chris Goddard at T18. He's a Boomer Sooner guy who just graduated. He had a tough Sunday, so he still needs to keep on playing, basically. But what I wanted to do was go through a few of the guys who failed to make the cut, who are trying to play for their card. Kevin Chappell, he's been plagued with a bunch of injuries. Then Jamie Donaldson missed the cut. David Lingmerth. I'm saying all these names, people maybe haven't even freaking heard of them.
Yeah, but these are all guys that have been on the PGA Tour.
Akshay, my guy Akshay missed the cut. Shit. Yeah. He's in a tough spot. Hey, all it takes is 1 week though. But then a few other names that missed the cut.
Robert Garrigus,
Bill Haas, Sean Stefani. I think the big one I wanted to mention, I finally got to him, was Harry Higgs. That dude is and Wes Bryan and Haotong Li, but Harry Higgs, while he's someone who I would want to be on the PGA Tour based on his personality and everything, I think these guys who lose their card do somewhat get some sort of conditional status still, but everything's looking more and more like he's going to be on the Korn Ferry. Unless you got 2 weeks, but he's not had a good season.
No, he has not. And again, it's a huge personality. We've seen him on a lot of podcasts, and the PGA Tour talks about a decent amount because he's a marketable guy. And he will have sponsors exemptions into PGA Tour events, which I'm not worried about it. But same time too, it'll be weird because I feel like he was just really starting to make a name for himself over the last kind of year and a half.
Mm-hmm. He reminds me of. Do you remember Andrew Beef Johnston?
Yeah,
That's who he kind of reminds me of. Who was good for like a year and a half and then just fell off.
To be complete, I forgot about Beef until you just said that.
I don't even know if he golfs anymore.
I don't even know if he's on the DP World Tour.
I really don't know. But I just felt that's who I.
That was a great
comparison.
Really that was actually a really good comparison.
Both are the big rigs. Yeah, they're big fellas. But yeah, one other guy, Austin Smotherman. He's the guy who at the Wyndham Championship doubled his second to last hole after the rain delay and had to start on Saturday to miss the cut. Had he made the cut, he would have stayed and made the FedEx Cup. ends up in this first Korn Ferry Finals event, misses the cut, and it's like, damn, man, that guy is. It's gonna be tough.
It's like crazy stories too about how close you can come to your dreams, and then
for every good story of like these awesome come ups. I mean, Sahith, Birdie, and there's always someone on the other side who gets fucked by it. So
that you don't talk about, like doesn't get talked about enough.
Then the other one was Justin Lauer. I wanted to mention because he was the guy.
He got to 15 under.
He's T26, so he's got some points, but he needs to have some good finishes. So
right.
Either way, just wanted to go through the next 2 weeks at Ohio State's course, it's a really good golf course. It's a fun tournament to watch. And then Victoria National is the Korn Ferry Championship, another really good one. So I encourage, if you're not golfed out, and especially before football season starts, if you're able to watch the Korn Ferry on Golf Channel, go ahead and do it.
You just get flooded with so much. Like this past week, it was USAN, then Korn Ferry Finals, then the PGA Tour, the BMW Championship, or the Classic, as my dumbass likes to call it. It is a lot of golf. So you kind of have to pick and choose because these events are all going on at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I think now it's time to talk about the story of the week.
Yeah,
the Tiger Woods meeting. Tiger and Ricky Fowler.
The Coop, as people are calling it.
Tiger Woods kind of did. Alan Shipnuck.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, I'll reserve my things. But so 22 players attended this meeting. None of the officials from the PGA Tour. We're still trying to get information, but No Lane Up was able to send out a list of the podcast. No Lane Up was able to send out a list of the 22 players who were at this meeting. Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, John Rahm, Xander, Justin Thomas, Morikawa, Zalatoris, Hovland, Fitzpatrick, Burns, Spieth, Finau, Horschel, Young, Neiman, Homa, Shane Lowry, Tyrrell Hatton, Kisner, Adam Scott, Ricky Fowler, and Tiger Woods. So a lot to talk about what was talked about. But just from the get-go, Cam Young, heavily rumored to be going. From what I've heard, is that's gone away now. He might be like firmly on the PGA Tour, especially being included. If you're going on this meeting.
Yeah, I assume you're included.
Yeah.
So look, here's my thought about that is like,
he's on the inside.
Exactly. It's like, could one of these guys be like a mole essentially for Liv that, it was bad, rumored, man. Like Cam Young was a name that we definitely heard.
Oh yeah. We heard before it was announced.
Correct.
Like before the media outlets got.
Yeah. But like,
maybe he never signed on the dotted line.
Yeah. But would he have the balls to do something like that? I don't know. Like that would be, imagine that story. Like that's just another story within itself.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
But I'm kind of with you.
Look, a guy can attend the meeting and still go sign a deal.
Right. But look, what if he's like, he take that information back to Liv? And I don't think that's what happened, but it's again, this Liv situation has been crazy. So I would not rule out any possibilities.
Mm-hmm. The other name on it was Adam Scott, who's also been rumored.
Correct.
Now he's been rumored kind of with Smith and Leishman. Obviously, those guys weren't included. There's guys who are not top 30 or they're top 30 in the world that weren't included. I don't know. I mean, like, it'll be interesting. Like, Matsuyama wasn't there. Granted, I've heard reports that he's not going to Live anymore. He's firmly on the PGA Tour. But then why wasn't he at the meeting?
Right.
Either way, what we've heard is there's 7 players who were at the FedEx St. Jude, and I don't know how many qualified, that are going after the Tour Championship. And
correct.
So we'll be talking about it next podcast. But what these 22 guys sat down and tried to do or discussed was specifically Rory and Tiger kind of driving this. Was, hey, this is what we can do to leave a legacy and really retain golf's integrity from a competitiveness. And I think they talked about what they can plan to do. We've heard a few things. There hasn't been a ton of details leaked yet, but from what I gathered was the tour within the tour was really the big thing to talk about.
Yeah, that's the same exact vibe I got from it too. It's, they made it really hard. It's been tough for a lot of guys to get on the PGA Tour, right? And now it seems like what these top players have talked about and discussed is essentially an elite series inside the PGA Tour. Is I guess the best way to label it.
Yeah, basically what has been reported from Alan Shipnuck from the Fire Pit and then Bob Herrick, Sports Illustrated, was they are proposing, and look, they don't have any backing from the PGA Tour. Let me say this. They are going to the PGA Tour with, hey, here's a thought that we have, a proposal we have to funnel money to the superstars to be competitive, but they're pretty much stealing Liv's platform, which instead of 48 guys in a no-cut event, it's 60 guys at a no-cut event. For about, I think they said it was 18 events or 14 events, which directly relates to Liv. But it's for 60 players. And so I think the question that, and there's, a lot of stuff, we're just getting early things, but the question then lies in is like, what about the guys who aren't the 60 players who are on the PGA Tour? What happens to them? Is this now the premier tour and the PGA Tour is a feeder to that, but they're still associated together? And then the Korn Ferry feeds the PGA and the Dubai, the DP World Tour feeds the PGA. There's going to be this whole structure, and is it going to look more like the Major League Baseball with AAA, AA, Single A, or is there going to be minor leagues? I don't know. But what's your thoughts on the whole 60-man series?
So again, it's like an elite series, and it's going to be, to me, it sounds like it's going to be the events that we've seen in the past. All to me is they took the World Golf Classic, and you're giving yourself 20 of those a year.
Yeah, the WGCs.
Or 16 a year. That was, and that was the first takeaway I had from it. And then people were like, oh, they're kind of still in the Live Golf idea. I was like, well, not really. Live Golf kind of just took the World Golf Classic idea and just put more money towards it. So it's like that. It's funny because that system has always been there for the WGCs, and it just never got talked about.
Well, it didn't work. I mean, the idea was very exactly what you said. It was, hey, let's have no-cut events to funnel money and bring in more world players, but it was boring, and they went to bad courses. And so I don't know if they're some of these heightened events are going to be the Genesis Invitational and the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Memorial, and it's really these big ones on the PGA Tour calendar, and then they're going to have a B event probably, similar to how they have the Barbasol the week of the Open.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to see how it comes. I think if you do something like that, try to do some team, mix it up. I don't know how you do that with teamwork. I mean, I'd love to see more alternate shot. But I look surface level, yeah, it's a good idea. And if people say they're stealing Liv, well, Liv stole the other idea that basically approached the PGA Tour to try to do together with him before Liv was a thing. So, look, if anyone complains about the whole they're completely stealing, it's everyone steals everything.
Yeah, I go back to Mark Zuckerberg and the social network, the Winklevosses.
Come on.
They had an idea, I had a better one.
Yeah,
and that's
we
essentially what's going on.
It.
It's a pissing contest.
I think where I stand by is if they are able to execute on this, I'm really curious what happens to the Liv guys.
So, because do those guys get signed to contracts now and make them exclusive on this deal, which I imagine to some degree would have to happen. But at the same time too is, all right, again, there's a lot to unfold here, is how do these younger guys on tour now become these superstars and compete with these guys that are only playing in these 18 events a year? Because that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. How many guys relegate? What's that process look like? And I think the big question also to look at is, this is what I inferred from reading. I can be off base, but from what I gathered is it seems like they want to do this not with the Saudis. Don't get me wrong. They don't want to do it with the Saudis. I don't think they want to do it with Greg Norman, but they want to do it with those players. They want to somehow bring those players back into the fold, merge. I think they look at it and say, there's no way either thing, if we're both fighting each other, no one's going to be successful. And so for golf to work moving forward, they need to be together, cohesive somehow.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. I could be off base. I'm getting that vibe that, look, these guys are probably what the fuck? You guys turn your backs to the tour. But I don't think they're I don't want to ever talk to you again.
No, because, again, this wasn't, and it's not like these guys didn't know the pay structure of the tour was a little bit flawed.
And they've been trying to for a while.
It's been a talk for a long time. So, I guess my question for you is, what do you make of Tiger Woods? Because Rory McIlroy came out and said no, it was undoubtedly Tiger Woods was the alpha in this room and kind of running the show. What do you make of him coming back to kind of be the voice of, would you call it the voice of reason or the voice of change? Do you think it needs to come from Tiger Woods? And because they've said when Tiger Woods talks, everyone shuts up and listens.
Yeah, well, I think the only guy who within the PGA Tour has the authority to tell Jay Monahan and tell other people to, hey, shut the fuck up and listen and do what I say is Tiger Woods. And so I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to, this is how we're going to do it. It's my way or the highway. I think that what he's doing is trying to make sure he's getting people to buy into what he's doing and make sure it's working for everyone. But I think he clearly, by doing this and his planted his flag on the PGA Tour, is identifying, there's some issues with the way it's all made up. And I don't think he's sitting here it's not his fault. He's the one who brought all this money to the PGA Tour. He's just, there's so much money in golf right now. how can we somehow capitalize this where people aren't just getting paid out the wazoo, but we're making it competitive at the same time?
Yeah. No, and I think that's, that poses an interesting scenario. It's like, all right, like, are they, and I think some of the talks is like, will they try to move Jay Monahan out of position? Especially with the influence that Tiger's brought to this whole situation now. But to me, it feels like, all right, this is a last-ditch effort, and the PGA Tour, in my opinion, has to listen to these guys. Like they can't, if they leave it go ignore it and say, oh, we're not going to do this, we're going to go a different route, like, all right, then you're just going to lose everybody at that point.
And what Ricky Fowler said, and he flew on the plane with Tiger to this hotel in Delaware, he's been pretty outspoken about it, and he was a rumored player to go, and I think, I don't know why he hasn't. I don't know if it's his relationships or if he just, it has a moral compass or anything, but he'd be a perfect fit from a standpoint of like career that was really good, big name, but like not playing that level. But he was pretty outspoken. He's like, look, PGA Tour hasn't handled this well, not from a standpoint of once it became a thing, but proactively. Like he basically said they've been so reactive to everything instead of getting on the forefront and being proactive with what we want to do. And that's what he's been critical about. I mean, they talk about this Premier Golf League that Rory had talked about too from different outlets, which is, again, there's these two different leagues. LIV became a thing. The Premier Golf League's trying to work with PGA Tour, and PGA Tour said, we didn't want to listen to you. You guys are stupid, wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's where some of the players were like, hey, like, because you ignored this shit, look what just happened.
Well, and then Monahan was asked back in February about it. He goes, I'm moving on from that.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal. Well, it turned out to be, and that's like, you had signs. Like, you had signs it was going to happen. That's like, essentially, Jay Monahan didn't do his job.
No. I mean, and again, look, he was like, I'm not worried about it. Well, when someone comes with a $4 billion fund or whatever, now you're like, shit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm curious if I'm LIV, like, what am I thinking at this point? I mean, they're getting ready to kind of restart their second half of the season. I mean, they basically picked weeks to not have events to basically against the FedEx Cup. They didn't want it. They wanted players. They thought they were going to be able to play in the FedEx Cup.
Right.
So they're going to start the week after. Basically, it's Labor Day weekend. They're going to be starting again. It'll be interesting. We have 7 players allegedly going.
And announced the Monday after.
Yeah.
After this event happens,
so we'll obviously have to figure out. I think we want to wait to see all these before we record next week.
Right? Yeah. So I assume we're probably aim for maybe a Tuesday,
a later one. But
yeah.
Either way, I don't know.
It's just so much like to unfold still, and it's just like, all right, how much longer it's going to take is like, all right, they just came out with this new proposed plan for only doing the season January through February or January through August. But to me now, like, there's going to be even more changes to the tour. So, like, the PGA Tour is essentially changing for the betterment of the players, but it's not going to be like, these are massive changes that are happening within this organization and within this quote unquote league. So, I'm at a point where it's hard to wrap your head around all the changes that are coming and being talked about and what's being speculated, what's not. Because like I said, we thought Cam Young was going, we thought Adam Scott was going, and now these guys are sitting in on the meeting. And I don't know, man. It's just, I almost just want to get to the end and just see where this is all going to be at.
So I'm trying to look at. So here's the guys who I think are going.
Okay.
Realistically, here's if I had to guess 7. I mean, obviously we say Leishman and Cam Smith. I think Danny Berger. I have no backing to this. I'm pure speculating off like who played in the FedEx Cup, St. Jude.
Yeah.
And I've heard that name rumored.
Correct.
So that like,
and he like,
that hasn't been rumored for a while.
Yeah. The only thing is like he is friends with Ricky and some.
But he's also friends with Brooks.
Correct. Yeah. So.
But he had like withdrew from the John Deere and hasn't played since. And so I don't know if he got like a big pay and they're just like, hey, with WD. I think Harold Varner the third.
Okay. That would make sense.
Justin Rose apparently like had a deal that fell through at the last minute.
Yeah.
I don't know if they fixed that. The thing is, he has the same agent as Tiger.
Yep.
So that's odd.
Well, he's with that whole group, and apparently, like, there's a bunch of golfers that are
part of. But no one from that group has gone to LIV yet.
Correct.
And so I don't know if maybe Tiger's like, no, you guys can't do that. So I'm just curious. And then I'm just kind of trying to go down like Jason Day. He played in the St. Jude. Like, he's a big name.
Australian, just like Norman.
Yeah, like I'm curious. and looking at it of what other guys could maybe be going, but I'm just trying to go through more.
I feel like enough gets leaked now of the top players that, like, I get they said like one of the players has been a superstar on the tour for a long time.
Well, that's Cam Smith, I think.
Do you think that's who they were talking about?
Or it could be Jason Day or Justin Rose.
Yeah, that's kind of where my thought is too. It's got to be a long vet. I can't remember who it was, and it's really. But I've been sitting here for the last 5 minutes trying to get it in my head. But someone's like, "Do you miss any of the guys that went over to live?" And it's maybe Rory. Maybe Rory was asked the question, or Schauffele, or something. It was one of those guys, or Morikawa, and they said, honestly, like, I do miss Dustin Johnson and his brother Austin. They were just characters and a blast to be around. So I did think that was unique. And it's really shooting me in the foot that I can't remember who said off the top of their head.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to do a better job at putting it in my notes next time. But I did think that was unique that someone actually finally admitted to missing some of those guys.
Another guy, Sebastian Munoz, has been rumored. I don't know. I'm trying to go through it all, and I'm trying not to say the guys who were in that meeting, because I'm assuming if you were in that meeting, you're back. But I also had it wasn't like rumors; it was more speculation. Like, hey, Cantley and Schauffele haven't said no,
right?
But then they were in that meeting, so unless they're like, hey, here's the meeting, we're trying to sway you guys. I just assume Tiger's bringing people, like, they're listening and they're going to commit. But
yeah. Or they maybe now too is like those were guys that they knew were on the fence and didn't have a deal in place, and then like they wanted to get them in on this meeting to make them feel like they belonged and their voices heard. So that could be a strategy too. But like my point to that too is like Ricky Fowler sat in on that meeting. Like he's not a top 60 player in the world.
No, I mean it wasn't. I think it was big names and stuff. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
it's
like
interesting.
So like that to me that was like kind of a surprise. Like that's the route they're going is, and like Rick, like how do you like. Just because Ricky's was in this meeting or part of this group, do all these 22 players automatically get exempt into that? Like, is there the politics behind it, or is it going to be based on world golf rankings? Like, to me, it's like, as much as I love Ricky Fowler, like his game has not been there. So, like, why should he have the right to get into this elite type series?
Well, I think it's just, again, a guy who's been around the block, and he's not maybe saying he should be in it, but he's saying he has a say in how the PGA Tour runs.
Yeah, because like, all right, so looking at as of a golf fan, is I know people say like, well, you put Ricky Fowler out there and people show up to see Ricky. Is that something that's always going to be around, or is Fowler kind of losing that lust?
Oh, I think he's lost the lust.
Yeah, I think so too. Like when I go to events, like he was at the Rocket Mortgage, and I was like, yeah, to me, I was like, I want to go watch the good players at the time. And
like if he's coming through, I'm not going to like leave you. I don't want to watch him, but I'm not going to go.
No
like,
disrespect to him. I love Ricky Fowler, but like you have to be realistic about what he is to the game right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here's my 7 I'm picking. Like we don't have to do this. I was going through.
All right.
Cam Smith, Mark Leishman, Justin Rose, HV3, Gary Woodland, Jason Day, and Sebastian Munoz. Those are the 7 I think will be announced.
Okay, and like, see, I look at like even those names, like the only one that I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks he's leaving is Cam Smith.
Yeah,
like all those guys are older. Like we've seen him on tour for a long time, and
I like HV3. He's been playing pretty good golf.
He's been playing pretty good golf, but he's kind of in the same category as like a Scott Stallings.
Yeah, he's never won.
Yeah, he
won the Saudi International.
Yeah,
that's the European Tour event in Saudi Arabia.
Like, yeah, and he has the potential to be on tour for a while, but to me, it's just like okay, it's like like again, the big names are already gone, and then Cam Smith will always be the big.
I forgot about Danny Berger in my list of 7.
Yeah, so take someone off. Maybe that's 8 now. You just made your own list going to 8.
All right, I'm going to take off Gary Woodland. No. Yeah, I'm going to take off Gary Woodland.
I would be shocked if Woodland did.
Just remember, I mentioned him. He's my bubble.
He's your bubble pick? Just because like Woodland does a lot with, and this is bringing the politics in it, he does a lot with like the fallen soldiers and wounded soldiers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I would be shocked if
that would be a big spin.
But at the same time, too, Faraday did a lot of things for the 9/11 survivors, and
so
he's over there. So obviously, speculation is still at an all-time high, and it's going to continue that way until we get stuff that's cemented.
Yeah, I mean, I just think we're going to have hopefully some closure here soon.
I'll be interested to see if there's any more meetings like this just between the players.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think it's been a long year. It's been a long year for a lot of the players. There's been a lot of off-course drama on top of just like playing a lot of golf. So I think a lot of guys are excited to finish the Tour Championship this week and then be able to just take some time off.
Well, and I think a lot of this between like the PGA Tour and these players that met is going to get ironed out after the FedEx Cup.
Yeah,
playoffs.
yeah, we're not going to have answers anytime soon, but I think that's going to be a nice window for them to do it. But yeah.
I do think you'll get more news throughout the quote unquote off season.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, that will have to. I guess Birdie Bogey of the week.
Birdie and Bogey of the week. You want me to kick this thing off this week?
Yeah.
All right. So my birdie is high school friends' weddings. So I had a friend, shout out Bree, got married this weekend. And then a bunch of our friends, like that was in our friend group throughout high school. And for the last, I'm 28, so 10 years, 11 years now. We had friends come in from South Carolina, friends come in from Colorado. And you just don't get that. Like as you get old, you just don't get that much anymore. So it was a lot of fun. I was up again. I said it earlier. I was up to 6 a.m. on Saturday night / Sunday morning. And you kind of revert back to that high school mentality a little bit. And that's just what happens when you're with those friends from, that you've been friends with since that long. So that was an absolute blast. And it's one of my favorite weddings I've attended. I can honestly say. So, I would say my bogey of the week, sunscreen.
You get sunburned.
You wouldn't. So I'm 25% Native American, but in my defense, I think like I always love those memes that go around. It's like, imagine thinking you're tougher than the sun. I say I'm Native American. I'm only 25%, and I just think automatically like that should make me immune to the sun. It doesn't. Fun fact, it does not. Like
I'm Italian, and I'm a freaking redhead pale motherfucker who gets roasted.
I would have never guessed you were Italian.
Yeah, I'm more Italian than Irish, way more.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm Native American and Irish as well too. So
it's an oxymoron almost.
Yeah. So I think the sunburn's coming from. I guess the bogey is sunburn, not sunscreen. But it was my first week actually like going to a beach and just, hanging out, laying out. And we stayed on the west side of the state on Sunday. So as much of it was a bogey, it was kind of a birdie at the same time too.
No, that's good. Where on the west side were you at?
We were in South Haven.
Okay.
So I'd never been there. It was really nice.
Good spot.
It's kind of like a miniature Grand Rapids, except for it's got a beach and everything in town. Dude, some of these boats that come rolling out of there. We looked up this one that it had like this big, like it's a big black, it's like a SACS Sax boat. Big black boat, had like 3 motors on the back. And we're like, I wonder how much that, like we Googled it. It was like a $3.5 million boat.
That's look, I think it'd be cool to be on one of those one time. I don't know why I would ever want one in my life. But hey, I'm sure these people have a lot of money and they're big fishing and that's their thing.
Well, that's the part is I think a lot of these people that have these boats aren't big golfers.
Yeah.
So I think
that's where my money's going.
At least in Michigan, like you have to choose, are you going to be a golfer or are you going to be a lake person with a boat?
Yeah, it's hard to be both.
Yeah.
Totally
really hard to be both. So
talk about the 1% lifestyle right there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Do you want to be a country club person or on a lake?
Well, I think most people are a mix of both. I mean, like you said, golf's the biggest it's ever been.
Everyone wants to be both, but
I mean, I was trying to be both. But I played golf on Friday and then was laying out on.
Would you play on the west side too?
No, I only played Friday at Links of Novi.
Oh yeah,
so
you said that.
Signature Series coming up next week for that one. So
what hole? Just a little teaser.
A little 9th hole on the East course.
Okay, a little dogleg left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, there you go.
So
we got to get me on for some of these Signature Series.
Yeah, we could do that or just create a different type of dynamic for it too.
I also could probably do it when I'm not with you. I for some reason feel like the need that I need to be with you for it. So
correct, but you don't have the drones.
There you go. That answers that question.
An issue for you.
There you go.
Well, we could like just create like a Nick versus Sam type series too.
Oh, there you
go. So
yeah, well, we should do that soon.
Yeah.
After Labor Day.
After the FedEx Cup playoffs.
There you go. All right, my bogey of the week. Look, this is gonna sound bad, and I don't mean to sound like a dick here, and I understand the importance of breastfeeding. And I don't even know if I'm ripping on the breastfeeding per se, but more just like I'm very confused with the whole situation. I feel like I need to explain it, but I went to a nice.
You definitely have to explain.
Yeah, I went to a nice dinner with my girlfriend. We were celebrating my master's on Saturday night, and we go to a place called the Whitney, which it's like an old house, basically an old house.
Yeah, really nice restaurant.
Yeah. So there's a lot of individual rooms, and we're in a room with like 3 or 4 other tables. Well, one table, a woman comes with her 2 twin daughters who are probably 4 years old, and her son who's 6 to 8 months. I'm guessing. I really am someone who can't tell the age of a baby. My biggest question was just like, hey, it's like 8:30 on a Saturday night. Like, not only that, like, why are in general you bringing little kids to this nice restaurant? Not because it was annoying. They actually were very well behaved. I'm not saying they were annoying. They were well behaved.
Yeah.
I'm more just like curious at the logic behind, like, you're gonna go spend some good money on a nice dinner. Like, why do you want to deal with your kids doing this? So I'm saying it's breastfeeding. It really wasn't breastfeeding. She happened to do that. It was really just flaunting it. Like, hey, more power to you, I guess. I thought it was odd. And then eventually, like, the manager was like, hey, like, it's time to go. And I don't know if it was because of the kids or if he used that as an excuse. I mean, I'm sure it was because of the kids and he used that as an excuse. But he was like, yeah, some guests have been complaining. Well, the 2 other tables in the room with us had talked to them. And so I'm like, shit, so does it look like we were the ones complaining? Because we didn't care. Like, again, it said they were all behaved very well. I was more just like, what? Like, why are you here? I don't know. Yeah,
well, I mean, that's things that you learn when you become a parent one day of like things you wouldn't or would not do.
I can't relate. Yeah. So,
not to like throw it up, but like we were at the beach on Sunday, and this older lady, she came and like by herself, laid out on the beach like next to this family, and then took her top off. I was confused. I was like, and so I guess I learned that like that's a very European thing to do. So I don't know if she was from Switzerland or anything along the lines. So yeah, I mean, I guess just
cultural difference. Like, look, yeah, I mean, I'm more. I think, yeah, it's not my bogey. I'm more just like clearly this is still in my mind, and it's been for 48 hours where I'm just like, why come with 2 4-year-olds and an 8-month-old baby? Just yourself to a nice restaurant. Like, that's what I was confused by. Maybe it's because I wouldn't do that. I don't know.
That's definitely what it is.
More power to him.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about it because it clearly has been eating at me. Birdie of the week.
You might get canceled for that.
I probably will. Yeah. They'll take something out of context. You're such an asshole. You're so stupid. You don't know.
You're shaming breastfeeding.
It's like, okay, whatever. I always have to do some golf related. Birdie shot 71, tied for the best round I've had this year.
Hell yeah.
The funny thing is, I've never felt so dejected shooting 71 in my life. Not because I didn't play bad, like well or anything. I shot 71. You got to be happy with that. I just played with a guy who shot 67, and you're just like, well, that
you got beat. You shot 100 par and you got beat.
I got beat by 4.
Yeah,
and it was like, shit, man. Like, that was just a phenomenal round of golf by the guy. Like,
it was a phenomenal round of golf by you.
Yeah, and I was just like, I mean, he was 4 under through, he was 5 under through 10 holes. It's just like, damn, good for you. And it was great to watch, and it is fun when you're playing with someone and you know they're playing well. It depending. I mean, you're bet. Like, I was betting against him, and it was tough because I wasn't. There was probably the first time I wasn't rooting for someone to screw up or anything, because I wanted to win my bet.
Yeah.
But it's fun. You want to root for the person to have a really good round, and sometimes when it goes sideways, it's tough to watch. But no, it was just wanted to shout out that round. I played well, but I got killed. I got beat up shooting 71. So
did it make it worse that he's like twice the age of us?
Look, see, people.
I know I'm not trying to get you to age shame or anything like that.
I stand by and look. No, not at all. That doesn't make it worse. I'm sure to him he was like, yeah, I kicked the ass out of some 28-year-old.
Yeah, that's
kid.
if I was
cool,
good
for you. Yeah. But I'm like, you shot 67. Like,
that's playing.
I've shot 67.
Was
once
that his
in
career
my life.
low too? Was that
he's had another? He said he had a 66 at a much like easier course.
Oh, okay.
Time. I mean, still, you shoot under par. You shoot under par. I don't care if it's freaking par 45 and you shoot 43 on a putt-putt course. Like, it's impressive. So I don't know. The one thing, like, we had been playing the tips for basically a month and a half to get up for the club championship. This week it was from the blues, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna like play blues now just to try to like learn how to play at a really good score.
Yeah.
Just because I was 2 under through 4 in the round he shot. He was 5 under. He went 5 under. I was 2 under 4 and ended up shooting 1 under. But just kind of learning how to play, and that's the fun thing I want to try to do. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. Hell of a round.
Yeah, but I got beat up. So
well, I mean, maybe you'll start shooting under par all the time that you're done with school because you got the stress relief of not having classes anymore.
It could be lack of pressure.
Yeah, it could be. So
either way, I wanted to definitely highlight it. So
yeah, all right. We got anything else? I think that
that was kind of it.
Yeah, wraps up the episode.
90,000 degrees in the studio now too.
Always.
It's a good way to get a nice sweat in if you don't have a sauna.
Yeah, or if you're not working out currently. But no, again, not the BMW Championship, FedEx Cup Finals, East Lake this weekend. I think one of the better tournaments of the year, even though people may argue on it. It's just a lot of fun memories. You got Tiger's memory. I remember watching Rory hole out from the middle of the fairway.
The Bill House from the water.
Yeah, going like there's been a lot of signature moments at this event, and the course kind of sets it up to be that way, which is, I think makes it really, really fun. So I'm definitely going to enjoy that this weekend, and then season's done. It's crazy to think PGA Tour season's already coming to an end. So,
but we'll be back. I mean, obviously we got to wrap up. We'll have a wrap up episode last week, and we'll touch on maybe more what's to come for us.
Yeah, and then
in future episodes.
Yeah, hopefully more interviews is I think kind of the plan for us. We really like doing those. Hopefully our boy Sahith, now that he wraps up the finals, will maybe it could be a surprise next week. If I'm not making any promises for anyone that's made it this far in the episode, but I may fire off a text on Sunday evening or Monday morning. So we'll see what happens.
When he wins $18 million.
Yeah, coming from 10 back.
Yeah.
Could you imagine winning your first PGA Tour event? I mean, because like those guys are the technical. Like if one of those guys were to come back from even par, like rightfully you were the low guy of the week because you have to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You couldn't have.
No one else could have gone like lower than you did.
Exactly.
So
unless you tied another guy who was at even par. So.
Right. Yeah. That would be electric. I'm waiting for that day to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever get it.
I just want him to be in contention more so, but
all in all, shout out to our boy Sahith. Shout out to everyone still listening. This has been fun so far this year, and we're gonna keep rolling into it. So if you're getting out and play this weekend, make sure you hit them far and hit them straight.